Okay, what's the situation like as far as domestic funds are concerned, flows are concerned? How strong or weak are things? We've got Mr. Subramaniam joining in to take us some questions from Sundaram Mutual Fund. He's CEO of the company. Thanks very much. Appreciate you joining in, sir. So we'll get the numbers for the month of March shortly. I think the last we did a status check, the equity number was about 3,900 crores or so. I mean, this was about 3 or 4 days back, but it could change, it could vary, but probably not very vastly. If it is around that number, it is a steep fall even as compared to the month of Feb.
Correct. So the previous month's trend, if you notice, was that, there are two separate trends which are driving this market. There's a profit booking from people who have entered the market a year, 2 years ago, and who are booking profit because of the election uncertainty and saying, let me capture my gains and relook at it. And there is fresh money which is flowing in. There, from last month to this month, at least at our counters, what we are seeing is a lot of HNI money is now flowing into small and mid-cap segment. The valuations come the fact of a little bit of a positive feeling on the NDA government with all that has happened. I think I've seen that people, because I think forward Ps of mid and small cap indices are 12, 13, right? So I think a lot of HNI, that is value buying from, what you call smart, and you can call them smart, but it depends. The ultimate market will tell whether you're smart or not, but they like to move in when they think. And we see a sudden uptick in the flows there.
So what are you expecting in terms of MF flows in the month of March then?
So I would say gross flows, right, last month over month, if you saw, were about 10% down. Okay, net flows were sharply down because of the. So we think that this month the gross flows should be back up 5%.
Okay, so they should grow 5% month on month.
Month on the gross flows. The net flows, I am not able to predict the redemption pattern because at our counters we are not seeing any significant change in the redemption pattern. But whether that's true for the industry, and Prashant's number of 3,800, right, it reflects that I think maybe redemptions are also gone up a little bit.
So the money which is coming in, where is it going?
I think that if you see the SIP flows, which is about 8,000 crores, are I think coming across mid, small and large cap funds. The big ticket money this month, as I said, there has been a shift away from large caps into the mid cap and small cap segment.
No, I'm just asking you because this financials and large private financials have done so well in the month of in the month of March, right? Is it largely a function of foreign money or local money is not so much? I mean, it's, as you said, going into more...
No. There are two different things, right? Money flow which comes into the MFC and what the fund managers do with it. So both foreigner FIIs and fund managers are buying financials. The money is not necessarily coming into financial specific funds. Even if it comes to a diversified fund, a fund manager is free to do what he wants with it. So there has been a big... especially banking, I would say the NBFC crisis is still not, there's still liquidity tightness for the NBFCs. So they're not lending in the market still. But banks are stepping in aggressively to lend into the market, and the net stress accretion on the bank space, I think, has significantly dropped. So fund managers, including ourselves, have got a lot of confidence now on the banking space, and we are now even picking select public sector banks. We were totally underweight on public sector banks. We are picking good select public sector banks now also.
So what is this criteria of selection of the PSU banks?
So I think two things are there. The one is that those which have, I would say, high level of CASA, right? Because in lending to retail, right, when you can't be a bank which is entirely borrowing from corporates and borrowing from the commercial CD market to finance your retail lending, which is 3 to 5 years. So asset liability, thankfully, in the banks is still where NBFCs could do what they want. Banks are still governed by proper ALCO guidelines. So this is the longer term. So those with CASA balances can afford to lend long term to step into that space. So one of the key things is we see the CASA ratio of the bank. The second is, of course, is what is the likelihood of surprises on the NPA. Those who have aggressively brought down their NPAs, provided for it, we feel the chance of further surprises are less. So I think if you take these two criteria are the ones. Third is where there is not much of a risk of merger either way. Because merger can hurt you both ways. A good bank will get a couple of bad banks merging and its good will come down, and a bad bank to chuna nahi hai. So we look at the middle segment where there is the government is not really looking at that as something they can merge. So that is, then we can expect a stability in of the management structure. They don't have to go through a pain of a merger.
So you wouldn't like a Bank of Baroda in that sense then?
I can't talk stock specifics.
But we had an SBI analyst yesterday, who, actually a financial analyst, who said that it's very difficult now to look for significant upsides in private banks unless you have a multi-year view. I mean, it's not now. I mean, that easy thing is gone. And he said public sector banks, I mean, his interaction with fund managers, etc., seems to suggest that it is just more tactical. I mean, you just going down the value curve, looking at getting in, getting out, maybe with strong gains, nevertheless. But it's not really, I mean, the call is not structural for PSU banks. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. The call is not yet structural for PSU banks. Call will become structural when the infra cycle truly picks up. Because the PSU bank's real strength is in lending to the infra projects and all the way, the long-term projects where private sector banks, fear to tread. So that cycle, the corporate cycle, I see the cap good cycle recovering, the lending to that segment is not yet there. So the structural call on PSU would happen when the corporate cycle is firmly in place in terms of in building up infrastructure, capacity creation, both in private and public sector.
What about the mid-cap space? If you are seeing, the flows are seeing opportunity within mid-caps and small caps, have you done any work in terms of, say, valuations? The likes of Ashok Leyland's and the Motherson Sumis of the world and the Bharat Forges. I mean, a lot of stocks are probably looking at like they're good discounts now.
That's right, and this is what I think smart investors are perceiving and putting money into mid-cap stocks. But I must tell you...
But how are they choosing it?
I'll just tell you that the way an investor is perceiving mid-cap and a fund manager is perceiving are two totally different things. At no point will I buy a mid-cap for value.
Okay.
I'll buy only the growth of the mid-cap. So that's where stock picking is very important. Because if you see value, the whole index is corrected. There's value across the board. But I will still go and buy growth. So if you take my mid-cap portfolio, the next 2 years CAGR is still 25%. That means I'm still buying EPS growth of quality. And so those valuations may not correct as much as the overall broader mid-cap index is corrected. But I still buy the lesser corrected value. So that's why I said, so to put it, it's called growth at a reasonable price, the philosophy that we follow, GARP. Right?
Okay.
So I'm still searching for growth. I'm not, despite the value correction.
Okay. All right, Sunil. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks very much for joining in. We'll take a break now. But up on the other side of this break is Q4 earnings season is going to begin soon. CRISIL has written a report on their expectations. We'll speak to Rahul Prathani, Director of CRISIL, on the other side.